again, we have come to the part 5 in this package or these sessions. Some of you have heard the other parts first, and for you it will be some repetition here. But also some of you might hear this session as the first part, so that's why I think it's necessary to say something of the core elements. This session is not about trauma treatment, it's about why parents are so important and how they can support their children. And how can we as helpers help parents to be that support. So the first point is about what actually determines whether a child is traumatized or not. Why is parents so important? And we are going to discuss the concept of protective shield. And then secondly, we are very shortly again saying something about what are the common reactions to trauma and what are the reactions at different age levels. And then I will present as the third point a model called the STOP model, which are the key elements in helping children in crisis. But first, the concept of protective shield. It's actually used by, I think it was invented, I don't know, but it is used by the one who's director of the National Institute for Child Trauma Center in US. His name is Robert Pines, and he says that if you can see on the slide, T stands for the trauma, the F stands for actually for parents. It's in Norwegian, I'm sorry. And the B stands for the child. But the thing to remember is being exposed to a trauma does not necessarily make a child traumatized. To be traumatized is a description of the reaction, not of the event. So you can be exposed to a traumatic situation without being traumatized, because you have the feeling of that someone is here to protect me. Sometimes I use an example from my own life, which is not a very traumatic life, actually, but I was driving a car with my 3 children in the back seat and a little cat, and then I fell asleep. And I crashed into the car in front of us, and my whole car was destroyed. It couldn't be repaired afterwards. Out of the car, all 3 children and the cat and me were climbing, and all of us were safe. No one was hurt. And then my daughter said to me, "Oh, mother, I'm so happy you are not damaged or hurt." And I thought, oh, but she shouldn't take care of me. I'm the one who should be taking care of her. So I said, well, the most important thing is that you're not hurt. And she looked at me as if I was the stupidest mother and psychologist she has ever heard about. And she said, "You must understand that if I got hurt, you would be there and follow me in the ambulance. But if you were hurt, who should take care of me then?" So for her, it was obvious that having a mother or someone to protect her and to follow her, even if she had been wounded, was more important than not being wounded, because the danger was really to feel unprotected. So That's what Robert Pines called that the child is not traumatized when the protection shield, the mother, the father, the caregiver, someone is there to protect me. So we call it traumatization when the child is exposed to a trauma and the parent are not physically or mentally available. It could be the parents. Here I use the term parent, but it could be any caregiver. It could be the teacher, it could be the grandmother, it could be an aunt, the caregiver. So the child is traumatized when the exposure is without any protection. And of course, the worst kind of traumatization is the last one here, when the trauma and the protective person is the same. The threat is coming from the person that should protect you, as in domestic violence, for instance. Then the child is really, really hurt. Robert Pines says that for the child, when the protective shield breaks, then anything can happen. Then the fear is all over. Anything can happen to me because I'm not protected by anything here. So all kinds of fantasies also start blooming. What could more happen when this could happen and no one was here? So we have a lot of fantasies also when children have been exposed to real trauma and they have felt this unprotected state. Sometimes you see fear fantasies. Robert Pines also says that three kinds of fantasies. It's fear fantasies, it's revenge fantasies, and it's rescue fantasies. So sometimes they have this Batman or Spider-Man or somebody came and rescued me, or they have some kind of imagining that they have themselves some overnatural forces, strength. So you could see a lot of kind of things that you think this couldn't be real, really? So has it happened? And you doubt the child's story because it's mixed with some fantasies. But the story and the event can be very real and the fantasies are following. So the PTSD reaction in general are this re-experiencing that it's coming back as if it is happening again. It's increased activation, that you are irritable, you are easy to get startled, you have difficulties in concentrating, difficulties in sleeping, and you have this avoidance, not talking about, not wanting to hear about, not wanting to be remembered. And sometimes that is difficult for parents because they want to calm their children and talk about them, and I saw you were very scared, and the child tries to avoid talking about it. But we know that avoidance is not a very good thing because avoidance can actually increase, so that you start by being afraid of a soldier, for instance, and then you become afraid of all kinds of uniforms, and then you become afraid of all men. And you know it can grow into a sort of phobia. So you have to do a balance between calming and sheltering, and then also gradual exposure. And we differentiate between different ages, the clinging and separation anxiety, and the losing skills, etc., when the child is 0 to 3, and the play that is so disturbed and interrupted, and that you have to help the child start playing again, because play is such an important developmental task. It's not only for amusement, it's also, this is an important developmental task. And you have also, for some children, what we call the shutdown picture, that they become passive, silent, and they are most difficult to recognize because they don't bother anybody. They just sit still. So to find out and to see that reaction in children is very important, both for parents and for other caregivers, teachers, etc. And then in school, you will see that the anxiety and the is also disturbing the capacity for concentration, for remembering, for learning, etc. And then you have the reactions in the adolescence where they overthink, they have concentration difficulties, they have thoughts about justice, who should be held accountable for this, aggression, and you also have a lot of losses, because sometimes we forget how important friends are to young people. I'll put in a little anecdote, because I was working in Bosnia, and we had an exercise where I asked the children to, on small cards, write about a friend they had lost. And they, in order for this not to be too overwhelming, I made the sentences and I said ... And they should just fill in some words. So it was, a good friend of mine was ... I lost my friend because of ... My friend was ... We used to do together ... What I feel now is ... So it should be not too overwhelming. But one of the girls started really to cry, very much crying. And she was overwhelmed. And and I said to her something about, because I wanted her to feel that she got some control back. And I said to her, do you know what would be good for you to do now? Because do you know why you cry so much? I'll tell you why. When we lose someone that we love so much as you loved your friend, we have a deep, deep, deep sorrow. And everybody calmed down, and it was silent like in the church. And then I said, sometimes when we are so sad, we know for ourselves what would be the best thing to do. And she said, yes, I want to go to the bathroom, please. And I said, yes, take a grown-up with you and go to the bathroom. And then I said to the rest of the group, and I said to her, come back whenever you feel ready for it. And then I said to the rest of the group, when we are as deep in sorrow as you saw Mira was now, what helps? And then they started to talk about coping strategies. I like going to cuddle with my cat. I like going to mother. I like listen to music. I like running. And they sort of helped each other finding good coping strategies, because we all feel this loss and feel that. So she wasn't ashamed of crying. She felt it was a sort of dignity when I said, this is what happens to us when we lose someone that is so close to us. So I sort of helped her feel a sort of dignity in the situation, and the other children helped her when she came back, that when I feel like you did, I do that, and I do that, and I think that helps, and I think that helps. So they got a sort of influence, mutual support, etc. Yeah. It was perhaps a little detour. I think when we talk about supporting children, we should also look into the resilience. I'll be very short. Just two, for me, important researchers, Antonovsky, who has looked upon who came out from the concentrating camps after war and managed well. What was their experience? What helped them? And he said his concept is sense of coherence, but he says that it is containing that the world need to be understandable. Cognitively, I understand what's happening here. It needs to be manageable. I know what to do, or I know where to go to get help. And it has to be meaningful. It has to give meaning, being something worthwhile. And the other one was Emmy Werner, who done research upon children living in extreme poverty and chaos. And she said, yes, the 4 factors. It's whether there is structure and some clear rules in their lives, whether there is this feeling of internal locus of control and influence, whether they have something where they feel that they are skillful or that they master. It could be playing football, it could be playing chess, it could be hairdressing, it could be anything. And she also points out that life has to have meaning. So when one starts refugee camps, etc., one uses this, what we call the STOP model. And the STOP model, for me, is easy to remember because of the letters, that the S stands for structure. You have to have, S is structure, that there is, like Emmy Werner said, that there is a structure in the child's life. A daily routine. When you go to bed, when you have your meals, what is the activities during the day. It's very, very important. It's very, very common that if you are an internal refugee or something, it's a bit chaotic. But to make a structure of the day makes the child feel safe and that their protective shield is restored. And the other thing is the T. Someone says that in refugee families or in families during wartime, it can become what they call a conspiracy of silence. That the grown-ups don't want to talk to children about what has happened because they want to somehow protect them from, and they think that the children hasn't been exposed to much, and the children want to protect their parents, so nobody talks about it. But every research says that being silent for a very long time and avoiding talking about what happened actually is making the re-experiencing, when you are not wanting to think about it, it comes back as invasion of your thoughts and your memories. So children need to talk about it, and they need also an explanation of why do you react that way, And why do mother cry during the night? Because she doesn't know where father is and whatever. They notice the grown-up's reaction and they need to get an explanation of it. And then the O stands for organized play. Because the play is many times so chaotic or rigid and it has lost its capacity to play and symbolize and using fantasy, you have to help them get organized activities. And then we have the P that stands for parental support. For us as helpers, we need to help the children, but actually, even more so, we need to give support to the parents. That is financial, material, physical support, but most of all, it's empathy and listening to them, and also make them understand that they are that important to their children, that they are the protective shield, that they are the ones who can make the child not traumatized, because even if it has been exposed to trauma. So we again need to be the protective shield of the parents, for them to be a protective shield for their children. Thank you. No, one is, yeah, just one more. The lesson learned from this lecture is children need parents to provide security and emotional support. They need explanation. They need predictability and structure. If you just have forgotten all the rest, just remember this. And parents need to understand how important they are. They need our support. And they need safe environment that gives them the empowerment and mastery and meaning of their life. Thank you.